Hi everyone. Welcome to my channel. So, in the previous video, previous session, we learned about internet, right? How internet works and how the communication happens, how browser communicates to the server, and then what are these ISPs and how ISPs help us, you know. Improving the performance of our app, and also they help us apply the rules and restrictions. So we saw all about that. It is more of a theoretical, right? But it is really important if we want to be a better front-end engineer. It is important uh, to have an idea of how internet works. If you want to, build a website and deploy it, and then if you want our user to have a good time with your websites, so it is important to understand all of this. So we are going to make use of our knowledge in the later sessions to, improve our apps, right? So yeah, so with that, let's go ahead. In today's session, we are going to look at fundamentals uh, for front-end development. Actually, there are mainly three, we can call them building blocks that are required to build a front-end app. So basically, they are HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Most of you guys uh, might have been already aware of what are HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, right? So yeah, these are the building blocks. All the websites at the end of the day, they come to the point of just HTML, CSS, and JavaScript and nothing else. There are boilerplates built on top of these three building blocks, and then to improve the performance, to make our app efficient, there are a lot of other stuff done on top of these three blocks. So let's start with HTML. Okay, let's see what is HTML. No, uh, it stands for Hypertext Markup Language, right? So it's a markup language. Um, no, hypertext, electronic text. So kind of one zeros that we display that our computer understands. So that's what stands for hypertext. So it's hypertext markup language, right? So it is kind of a skeleton to our app. Whatever we see as an output, that's all written inside the HTML. Okay. Um, so it has everything, the buttons, the forms we see, the text boxes we see, the images, the color, not colors, the images and all of that comes inside this is HTML, right? So I have a HTML structure here. You can see that this is how a typical HTML file would look like. Right? So it starts with a doc type. So this doc type, we write doc type to make sure that browser understands. At the end of the day, all of our files are going to run inside the browsers. Okay, right? So we write doc type to make browser understand that the file we are going to run now is of type HTML. Okay. Again, like nowadays it's kind of not even mandatory. Browsers nowadays are very smart that they pass the file on their own, and they try to understand what kind of file it is, even though we don't provide doc type. Okay, so HTML have tags. What is a tag? This is a tag. Uh, This HTML is a tag. A tag is text written between two angular braces. So there is this lesser than brace, and then there is this greater than brace in between whatever is written. So this whole thing, this is called as a tag. So, uh, you know, usually HTML starts with this HTML tag, okay, and ends with the HTML tag. Okay. So this is a closing tag. We call it this as an opening tag, closing tag. What's the difference between opening and closing tag? Opening tag doesn't have the slash, closing tag has the slash. Okay. And so inside HTML, we'll have a head tag and we'll have a body tag. Okay. So head tag has title and it has a lot of other stuff as well. It has style, and then it has link. So it has a lot of also it has meta, right? So it has a lot of tags. So we will look into it in the later part. Okay, so we'll try to understand what all are those tags in the later part. So when we need those tags, so at the point of time, so we'll see how why these tags are used, what's the purpose of them. So we'll see about all of that. Okay. So let's see what this title tag does, right? So whatever we write inside this title tag, um, so let me save this. So to run any HTML app, we just have to right click on the file and then copy the path, okay, and then go to your favorite browser and then run it. So here, right, you can see that there's nothing inside it. You can see that we have my website here, but we don't see it inside browser. Why? That is because title is meant for not the browser body. It is meant for the tab. So at the top, you can see there is this my website text on the tab, browser tab, right? So title is always meant for that. So whatever we write inside title is going to be displayed here. So if we want some content to be displayed inside browser, we need to write it in body tag. Okay. So let me write something. I suffer. This is my website. Whatever we write inside body tag is going to be um, displayed in the browser body. Right? Okay, great. So let's try to understand some more tags that we use inside body tag that helps make our app a better app. Okay. So there are header tags, heading tags, okay, heading tag. So these tags are used for heading purpose. Like if we have some heading, so let's say I want this to be my heading. So this my heading to be my heading. So let me refresh it. Currently, it doesn't appear to be a heading, right? So this is a normal font size. The size of this text is normal, right? And the heading usually will have a bigger size and then it will be bold, right? So we have HTML has heading tags. There are actually 6 heading tags starting from H1 to H6. Okay, so let's see what uh, H1 does. So if we write something inside H1 tag, okay, you got me? Oh, you can see that size of my text is increased, and then it automatically adds the bold font weight. We call it font weight. Okay. Same way, let me try actually say for the try 6. Let's say H5, H4, H3. See, starting from H1 to H6, it is just that the heading is so H1 by default has the maximum font weight and maximum size, and then H5 is H5 has a little bit lesser size, and then H3 little bit lesser again, H2 little bit, H4 little bit lesser, H3 little bit lesser than H3, H5 little bit lesser than H4, and then H6 little bit less than H5, right? So the size keeps on decreasing. So these are our heading tags. Right? Now let's try to understand a few more tags. Okay. So we have something called as anchor tags. Okay. These anchor tags are nothing but links. So whatever anchor tags uh, have the tag name as A, okay, just A. And then we say uh, these are links actually. I'll say link to my another website. Okay, so let's refresh it. So currently nothing's happening because anchor tag takes an attribute. What is attribute? Attributes help us make a tag, modify the tag, do some work on the tag. So it takes a href attribute. Here we are supposed to give the link to our website, which we want to show when user clicks on this text. Okay, so let's say I want to go to www.google.co.in. Okay, now you can see that it turned a blue color and there's underline on it. And whenever we take our mouse cursor on this text, it changes to that pointer, the index finger, right? So when I click on this, you can see that I'm going to google.co.in, right? Um, Now, okay, now we can see that on clicking on it, it is taking us to google.co.in. So, but we want this new tab to be opened, new content, so this new website to be opened in new tab, not in the same tab. I want this tab to be remained as it is, and then I want this content to be opened in new tab. So that we use for that we use another attribute called as target, and then we make it as blank. Okay, so make it as blank. So if I click on that, also we have to refresh this. So when I click on that, by default it opens a new tab and then loads my website into the new tab. So these are what we call as attributes. So this A by whole we call it as a tag, and whatever we use inside some tag to modify the to modify it or to provide some input to the tag, we call them as attributes. Okay, so this is our anchor tag, right? Let's see a few more. We have image tag as well. Okay, so there's nothing but if we want to load some image, if we want to add some image to our website, we can make use of this tag. This has uh, two attributes. Okay, it has lot of attributes, but uh, this src attribute is mandatory. Okay, okay. So this src is a path to our image. For example, let's see. If I want to add this image tree. Okay, let me copy. Let me try to copy the path. Okay, there is an option to copy the path. Anyway, it is my text file and the this image is on the same directory, so I can directly use it. Image slash tree.png. All right. So let me run it. All right. I can see now there's an image added, right? From HTML. Okay. So here let's try to understand. So for whatever tags we have used, they have an closing tag as well, right? H1 here is this is starting tag slash H1 is the closing tag. A similar way, A is the starting tag and then slash is the closing tag. But image do not have that. So there are some tags which do not have either which do not have a closing tag. So image is one of that, and there is another tag as well called as uh, breakpoint. We call it BR. So BR like it gives us a new line. Okay, and there are a few more tags. Okay, we'll see about it in the later part. So there are some tags without closing tags. Okay, they are self-closing, so we don't have to provide. Uh, I know explicitly we do not have to provide a closing tag. Okay. Now let's see some more tags. Okay, so this is image, right? So let's try to understand. If we want to list something like with the bullet points, so usually we see in a lot of websites there are some content which are provided with bullets, right? So for that we have two kinds of tags. Okay, there is UL tag, okay, and there is OL tag. So UL stands for unordered list. So usually here whatever lists we give here, they are going to have a bullet uh, prefix to that. Okay, so OL tag is for ordered listing. You order by number, order by alphabets. So we can do that in OL tag. Okay, so both have similar syntax. Inside these UL tags, we again need to use one more tag to list the items like li. So this tag is called as list tag. Okay. So let's say let me write something. This is list one. Multiple times. That's list two. This is list three. Okay. So let me run it. You see, now we have bullets to that. Let me do the same in OL tag, that is ordered list. I have some numbers. Think we can change it. Not here. Okay, so we'll see how to change it. Change the type of the list prefix. Like here by default it is numbered, right? And here it is bullet. So we can use uh, other other symbols and alphabets, number, anything to represent the list. Okay, we'll see how to do that later part. Okay? Um, so then this is list. Okay, so let's try to understand another important tag. Okay, just called as table. This is a table tag. So if you want to have a table in our web page, so we can have it using table tag. So table again inside the table tag we use few more tags like TR stands for table row. Okay. TD stands for table data. So this is how. So let's say a row. Our initial row will consist of the column names, right? So let's say we are going to have name column, and then let's say we are going to have gender column for now. Okay. So in the next row, so for in the next row, the first column is name. So I'll write my name, birth, and then another column for gender. I am male. So yeah, you see, first row consisted of the first row had two columns. This is name and gender. Next column had my name, Sampath and name. Okay, now we can add border to it as well. So border as one, yeah. So the table text attribute called as border. By default, it doesn't apply border to anything. Um, so here we can provide this border uh, attribute to specify even the weight of the border. So as we increase the number, the border weight is going to be increased as well. It is going to become thicker as the number we provide inside in this border attribute increases, right? So there is one more thing to it. We can provide a caption like what should be the table name. We can call it details table. It is kind of a heading to a table. So as this is a heading, so I can make use of H1 tag. Yes, this is that section. Right. So we'll see about why it is only taking. It is the caption is as long as the width of the table, right? So we'll see uh, the methods to we'll see some uh, tricks to increase this table width and all, right? And so if here like for now, if we want this to take the full width, so instead of giving it inside the table, we can give it outside the table as well. Yep, now it is taking full width, right? So likewise, I can have multiple rows here. Another row, let's say, um, Brahman, people show name, yeah, this is how table works. So usually initial row only contains the column names. Okay. So the actual columns start from the next second row, right? So this is how the table works. Great. So now we know uh, a lot of tags. So let's see a few more. There are formatting tags as well. Formatting in the sense, so let's see. If we want some text to have bold, so it has to be a normal text, but it is to be in bold. In that case, we use B tag. So I'll say this is a bold text. Yeah, you see this is in the normal size, but still it is bold. So this is a formatting tag. B is a formatting tag. Let's say a few more formatting tags. I stands for italic, right? This is italic text. All right. So this is an italic text. Okay. So this is coming here. What else we have? Underline. Right? This is underline text. Great. So now this is underlined. Okay. So these are the tags. These are some formatting tags, even though we'll be very rarely using these tags. Okay. So now you might have, okay. So let me show you something interesting. I'm going to comment all of this. Okay, forward about one important part here. Commenting. It is uh, so as you grow on and be a good front-end developer, uh, so it is obvious to make sure that your code is very readable to others and it is understandable code. So to make a code readable and understandable, comments play a very good part in that. Comments are nothing but they are text, they don't have any effect to the code, right? So comments are written inside these blocks. Okay. So angular bracket, uh, exclamatory mark, then this one hyphen hyphen and then hyphen hyphen closing angular bracket. Okay. So whatever I write here, this is the comment. So this is not going to be rendered in our browser body. right? This is to just make sure that whatever we are going to write below what we are going to explain it inside this comment. So for example, here we have these heading tags, right? So I'll say uh, below tags are called as heading tags. So if someone comes and see my code here, and then if he's new to my code, so by seeing the comment, she will understand that, okay, so below are the heading tags. Same way I can say here um, that this is an anchor tag. The tag, it is usually used to um, used for links. Right. So now, okay, now whoever is going to read your code will understand, okay, so this is used for linking purpose. So this is the image tag. Same way I can do say it here as well. I'll say this is an image tag. This is an image tag used to load images. Okay. Same way we can do for all other uh, all of our content type, right? So this is how we make use of tags, right? So okay, now let me uh, comment all of this. Let me totally remove this. Okay, so let's try to understand few more things. Now, you see, there are something called as div tag. There's something called as span tag. Okay, actually, in HTML, the tags are different types. Okay, one we call it some of the tags are called as block tags. Okay, some of the tags are called as inline tags. So this div is a block tag. The block tag. Span is a inline tag. Let's try to understand what is a block tag and what is an inline tag, right? So let me remove the span for a second. Okay. So I say this is div one. Okay. So I'll copy paste this. This is div two. You see, the div one is taking this 100% width of the body, this browser body. And that is why div 2 is coming below this div 1, and this is also taking 100% width of this browser body. Okay. Now let's see how span works. Let me move there. Span. Okay. Uh, this is one paste. This is span two. You see, span tags are coming next to each other. So that is the difference between block tags and inline tags. Block tags always take the 100% of their parent. All right. Span doesn't do that. It only takes the minimum width that is required to render its content inside it. Right. So that is the difference between block and span tags. Even though even here, right? So we saw that when we used underline tags, uh, underline is an inline tag, all right, and even italic is an inline tag. Even they are appearing next to each other. Right? So we can make a tag inline or block using CSS. So we'll see about how can we do that. Okay. So I think this should be enough about HTML. I missed some things again. So let me uh, take a div tag or any tag for reference. You can take any tag for your reference. I'm taking div tag. Okay. So every tag in HTML has few default attributes like ID. Okay. It has ID, it has class, name. Okay. So there are lot of other attributes as well. So we'll try to focus on the even not even name. Let's try to focus on ID and class. So ID, right? As name suggests, ID it is going to be unique for each element. So let's say we have two divs. Okay. So if this ID, I'm going to give it a value as one, and here I cannot give one as again value again. I have to give something unique like two. So ID is kind of your roll numbers, right? In school, in your colleges, every student has unique roll number, right? So the same way here, IDs are unique. Okay, classes. Um, Classes can be similar. I'll say this D1 belongs to uh, class 1, and this can also belong to class 1, or it can belong to class 2. Like we can give similar uh, values to class, or it can be different as well. But ID, there is a rule that it has to be unique. It cannot be, the value cannot be what is already used in use. Okay. So why we use these IDs and classes? We'll see about it when we look at CSS, okay, when we are writing CSS. So, hmm, what else? What else? I think this should be enough of HTML, guys. Uh, so let's try to understand the CSS part. Okay. So CSS is usually used to beautify the content of HTML. So you see that HTML is always left aligned, and whatever we write, right? So it is always going to be left aligned. So we want to lay out this. If you want to change the color of the text, we want to increase the font weight. Like again, we have heading tags, but if we have some specific font size in our mind, we want to update it, and we want to do some typography. Like there are a lot of font families, right? So we want to change the style of the fonts. So what to do? So CSS is there to save the day, right? Um, so let's see how we can use CSS to achieve all of that. Okay. There are multiple ways to write CSS. Let's start with a simple way. Okay. So there is, okay, before going to that, let's try to understand how a CSS, how can we write a CSS? Okay. What is going to be the syntax of that? Okay. So syntax is going to be pretty similar. Uh, So CSS property has two things, key and a value. Okay, it has a property and a value. So property is something like what we want to do, like we want to apply color. So color can be a property. Value can be what color, which color we want to apply. So blue. So blue is a value. So this is how we write CSS. We say property, like we write a property, like which property. Color is a property, and what is going to be value of that? Blue. So blue is a value, right? That is how we write CSS. So let's write CSS for our div one. Okay. Uh, so I talked about attributes, right? HTML attributes. We have ID, we have class. Same way, we have a style attribute as well. Okay. So inside style, I want the color of this div one to be blue probably. So I'll say color colon blue. That's it. And then let me save it. Okay, refresh it, you see that the color changed to green. So I can change it to any other color as well. So let me make it green. The screen now. I can make it red. It's red, right? So you see, guys, here now this is the magic of this VS Code editor. So I can hover on that. I can choose colors at the runtime here. Like I can see that how should my div text look like, and we'll see about this. Like there is hash CE7, so what it does, and is that a color? Usually, currently we use red, blue as colors, but what is this? We'll see about it. But again, like this is how this is why we use code editors. So VS Code is a code editor. Okay, so I would also highly recommend you guys to use VS Code or any other code editor IDE, right? There is this atom, intelligence, not intelligence, IntelliJ. Uh, there are a lot of other code editors as well, but I personally prefer VS Code. It comes with a lot of advantages. For example, you can see right here, I can update the color as I want just by moving over this color palette, right? So can just save it here, and then I can see that whatever color was here is applied to my div tag. Alright, so that is the use of VS Code. Okay, and also it provides us the intelligence as well. Like if we are typing something, we can see that we see the intelligence here. We can select from here like what kind of colors we want. Just save it, and then I can see the output here. So this is why we use IDEs, code editor IDEs. Okay. Uh, Now, so this is one way to write CSS. Okay. So if I want to apply the same style to div2, I need to copy this and then paste it here. So now both of them have same color. But now let's say there is another property called as font size. Okay. So there are two ways to provide a font size. Okay, there is this large. We can choose from this large quantity. Like it should be large, larger, medium, small, smaller, X large, X small, double X large, double X small, or we can directly give a number. Okay, so here in CSS we measure some things by there are some measurement units. They are let me say, so I want it to be 14 pixel is a measurement. Okay, percentage is a measurement. So there is vh, vw, em, rem, ec, in. These are all measurements. So we don't use something like my font size should be 14 centimeter. We say it is going to be 14 pixels. So for that we use pixel, px is the measurement unit, right? So usually the syntax is to provide a number and then provide a unit of measurement. That is, so for now I'm choosing pixel. Okay. So you can see that the size is now set to 14 pixels. You can increase it by making 20 pixels. Okay, so it got bigger, right? So again, if I want to apply the same style to div2, I have to again like copy and then paste it here, right? Now you can see that this is getting redundant, right? So I might have a few more styles done for div1. I want same to be done for div2 as well. What I have to do, I have to just copy the whole thing and then paste it inside this style of div2. So, is that a good approach? Like writing the same thing again and again? No, no, I don't think so. Right? So this is one way to write a CSS. There is another way as well. Okay. Let's see what is the another way. Okay. Mm, So inside the head section, you make use of style tag. So this style tag is used to provide CSS again. Okay. So there are multiple ways, you know, with which we can apply CSS to our div tags. Okay. Now here is when we can make use of these IDs, classes. Okay. Uh, so one way is to use selectors, these tag names directly. Okay. So I want to apply some CSS for div tag. Okay. And then tag with open and close curly braces. Inside this, I'll apply my CSS property. So for example, color as let's say blue Bollywood. Okay, this is it. And I can see that both of these div have now Bollywood color. So this div tag, right? When I say div tag, so however many div tags I use inside my body tag, for all of that, this CSS property is going to be applied. Okay. Um, Now I want to apply font size, that's 20 pixels. Yeah, apply to both of the divs again. Um, Now, let's say, let me make use of another div. Let me give the ID as string and let me change the class name. Okay, so let me do 3. Now, all these 3 divs have same CSS properties applied, right? So what I want is, okay, first 2 divs should have same CSS properties, okay? But I want this last div to have different property, okay? So let's say I want this last div to have blue color instead of Bollywood or red color instead of Bollywood, okay? So for that, what we can do is instead of using this tag name here, we can make use of class. So we can say that div1 and div2 have same class names, right? So that to uh, say our browser that something is going to be a class name, so we start that class name with a dot, okay, period, and then we'll mention that class. So this is a class, and then this is the class name, and this is a class. So this dot indicates that whatever we are writing is for a class. Okay. So for class one, I want this properties. For class two, I want color to be blue. Okay, and then font size to be 20 pixels. Great. So class one is used by 2 divs. So this color and font size is applied to class one. For class two, this color blue and font size is applied to class two. Okay. Now again, so yeah, again like this font size, right? This is redundant again, right? So I want this font size to be given to both class 1 and class 2. I want this font size uh, to be same for both class 1 and class 2, right? So what I'll do, I'll remove this similar property from both class 1 and class 2. I'll write another CSS here, comma, class 2. So I'll write something like this. I'll say whatever I'm writing here, I want to be applied for both of like or how many ever CSS I'm writing here, I want it to be applied for both of them. Okay. So here I say uh, font size to be 20 pixels. So what I'm saying, my class 1 and class 2 should have font size as 20 pixels. But my class 1 should have color as Bollywood, class 2 should have color as blue. Let's see. Yeah, no change at all. So this is how we write CSS. Okay. Now, let's say I have another tag, it's called as paragraph. Okay. So this T is called as paragraph. Whatever we write inside it, we write something like so we are going to put here. Now let me give the name as class as class one again. Okay. Now these same properties are applied to paragraph. But yeah, so let's see. I want to have this class for paragraph, but I don't want the CSS properties that are applied to div should apply to paragraph. So what I can do here, I can say that selector this tag name dot class name. So something like I can make use of something like this. So what it does is it indicates the browser that uh, so this element should be a div and this element should have a class name as class one. Okay, and element should be a div. It should have class name as class two. So for both of these elements, my font size should be 20. Same way here, element should be a div and its class name should be class one and its color should be this. Element should be div, class name should be class 2, and then its color should be this. So now you see that the CSS properties are only applied to div. Now if I want to apply for P class, P is class name which is class 1, I can do like this P dot class 1 and then I'll say color as red. Great. So this is how we give we apply CSS to uh, our tags here, body elements, right? Uh, so this is another way. There is one more way. Okay. So let's say we have multiple HTML files with the same similar structure, which uses this class one, class two classes in there as well, and we want to have the same CSS applied to them as well, right? So what I have to do again, I have to copy this and then paste it into the body head tag of and that HTML file. And like however many HTML files here we are using, if we want to reuse the same CSS, I have to go there and paste this whole content, right? That is again not quite right. This is getting redundant again. So for to overcome that, what we can do is we can have a new file for CSS. Okay, let's save it. Let me name it as style.css. Okay, content. So our CSS file ends with an extension .css. Our HTML file ends with an extension .html. Okay, so let me patent and then write all of this CSS inside this style.css file. Now I have to import it in this HTML. So to import that style.css file, I can make use of link tag. Okay. So link tag by default comes with some attributes. So relation rel attribute is one such attribute. So this is to mention this link tag that whatever we are going to import, it is going to be a CSS file. Style sheet is a CSS cascading style sheet. Okay. So style sheet is CSS file. So we are going to mention this link that whatever file we are going to import, that is going to be of type CSS. Okay. Let me give the path to that. Let me just copy path and then paste. Okay. So if I run it, yeah. So if I comment it, see, even though we are using class names, we cannot, CSS cannot apply to it because there is no way this HTML knows that there is some CSS file which has uh, CSS applied for these classes, right? So we need to import that file here. That's it. So if you want the similar uh, CSS to be applied to some other HTML template, then we just go there and we use this link tag and then import the CSS file. That's it. Importing that CSS tag makes the work, makes it work, right? So these are the ways in which we can apply CSS to our tags. The first way which we apply CSS using style tag is called as inline CSS. Okay. Second way using style tag, right? That is called as document label. Okay. And then this we are importing another CSS file, right? So here using link tag, this way is called as external level. Okay, external CSS. So this is external. This does not belong to our this HTML file. So we are importing it from our the external CSS file, right? So yeah, so this is about the ways of importing CSS. Now let's see about few of CSS properties. Okay. Now as I mentioned, this is the color property. We saw about color property. I was saying that there were colors, right? There were there are different types to import a color. So you say there is this RGB color like red, green, and blue pattern, and then we give some number inside this, and then it makes a combination out of this and gives us a color. So this is one way, and another way is a hex code. So this is a hex code. So we use this hex code to generate colors. So here we just have to move across this palette, and then again, like we can change the types of color here as well. So this is blue, and then what shade of blue we want, right? So if I want this shade, so this shade has hex code as 9997D8. So this is hex code. This is a type of how we give colors to our elements. So usually we prefer hex codes to provide colors because directly applying colors, now we have multiple browsers. There is Chrome, Firefox, Opera, Safari, Firefox I mentioned. Yeah, there are a lot of other browsers as well, right? Brave. Yeah, so there are multiple browsers. So if we give colors with names like this, blue. So shade of a blue when Google Chrome is different, and shade of a blue when Firefox is different, and shade of blue when Safari is different, shade of blue when Brave is different. It is different in Opera as well. So if we want to maintain some uniformity, we provide it using hex code. Hex code makes sure that the shade is same in all the browsers. Right? So that is why developers recommend using hex code while applying colors. Okay. So similar way, we have something called as background color. So this color applies to text. So if you want some color to be applied to background, okay, both the div classes which has class 1 here, okay, so class 1, both the divs background color has been changed to red now. Okay, so see, as I mentioned, as div is a block tag, right? So that is why it is taking 100% of the width of the browser body. The background color. Now there is one more thing to it as well, like let's say background. So if we want our whole parents background to have some image, right? So we can provide it using this URL method. So here we just have to give the path to that image. That's it. So I'll say image tree.png. This is the background has these image. So you see that by default it is duplicated to cover the whole background, right? So we can make it uh, uh, we can disable the repetition by saying background repeat as no repeat. You see, it just has one image. So this is one CSS property, background repeat, background. Okay, and then let's see one more CSS property called as, let me remove this background, border. Let's say I want my div tags to have border with black color. Okay, and the thickness of the border is going to be of 1 pixel. So it is a solid. There are different types: solid, dashed, a dotted. So solid is a single line. Dashed is it is kind of dash 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 dash. Dotted is dot 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 dot. Here I'm going to use solid, and the color is going to be black. So you see our div tags now have borders here, right? Okay. Border is one thing. So this is kind of we call it as a shorthand notation here. So we are providing all the properties at once with the space separated, right? So initial property, it is a measurement unit, the thickness of the uh, border, and then type of the border, is it going to be solid, dotted, dashed, etc. Yeah, right, and then color of the border here. So we can have some in a separate properties as well. Like we can just make sure that let this border um, style, right? We can say that this is solid border color as black, then border width as 1 pixel. Same thing. So instead of giving it in three properties, I chose to give it in a single property called as border. So we call it as shorthand notation, right? So we saw about borders. Let's see about display. There is something called as display property. Okay. Now we saw that div is a block type tag, right? So if we want to make it inline, so we can make it by default div is a block type. So we can change it to inline by making use of this display property. We just say we want this element with this class to have inline type. So if I refresh it, you can see that now it became inline. Now this div is using only the amount of width that is required for its text, for its content, right? So now it has become inline. So we can change the display type of any element by using display property of CSS. Okay. Uh, so this is about display. Okay. And let's say we want to remove this element from our viewport, like we don't want this to be seen. So we can even choose to remove it by making display as none. I see those divs are gone because this display is none. If I make it inline, they are inline. If I remove it or if I make it block, it will become block again. All right. So this is our display property. What else we have? Okay, position. So this is something interesting. Okay. Let's say inside this div, instead of just text, okay, let me make use of class too. So instead of just text, I'm using a span tag. So this span tag, let me write it. Okay. Uh, so let me make use of this. There are different type of positions. Okay. By default, every element in the HTML document is going to have a static position. Okay. And there are other positions as well. There is a position called as relative. Okay. So when we make a position relative, we can alter the positions place. Okay. So let's say let me make this as inline for better understanding. Let me provide background color as well. Okay. So from its current position, all right. Okay. So from its current position, I want the div to move towards its right by 10 pixels, like from left to right. So if you want it to move from left to right, uh, we provide this position as relative, and then I'll say left as 10 pixels. So if I want that element to move from left to right, left towards right, okay. So 10 pixels. Let's say, yeah. So you can see that it moved from its actual position to 10 pixels ahead. Okay. Um, Let me write it again. Okay. So I want this to move again like 20 pixels ahead. So from its actual position, now it is 10 pixels. From here, it will move to 20 pixels. So if I do this, you see, 20 pixels. From here, it will move to 20 pixels. Okay. Uh, so there is another uh, position as well. It's called as absolute. Okay. Now, before going to absolute, relative, right? So now this is uh, left of it, like it is moved towards right by 10 pixels, right? Let me remove this, not back to its original. So if I want it to move towards left, like from its right towards left by 10 pixels. Okay. So from its current position, it move towards right. Okay, so move towards left, like from right of its current position, it will move towards left. Okay, so this is the right and left. So relative right, it always consider the element's current position. From that current position, it either moves towards left or moves towards right. Okay, uh, so that is why we use relative. Now let's see absolute. Okay, so you can see that uh, this this whole absolute is there, right? It takes it comes out of the viewport. Okay, so now if I give left as 10, so from left it moved to 10 pixels from its left side. So if I give right, you can see that from right it moved towards 10 pixels towards left. So that is how absolute works. It doesn't consider the element's current position. It considers the its parents right and parents left. That is how absolute works. So now if I give right, parents right is this part. So from here it moved 10 pixels towards left. So if I give left again, so from here it will move towards left till 10 pixels. See? Now from here it moved 10 pixels towards left. So that is how absolute work. Okay. Um, I think for that we have a better example here. Yeah, absolute position. Okay, let me save it as all right. So let me copy path. Okay, so this is going to give a better understanding of the absolute. So the definition of absolute is when an element has a position as absolute, so it is binded to the nearest parent which has position as relative. Okay, so here you can see that in HTML we have a div class with the class relative, okay, for which position relative is applied, and inside this div we have a class as absolute, which position absolute is applied to it, right? So now when so this so we can see that the parent of this div tag is this div tag, right? So this has relative positioning. So this has absolute positioning. So this div is binded to this parent. So now if I you see, okay, so here we say that right should be 0 pixel. So the parents, whatever width is there, so parents width is 400 pixel. Okay. So even the absolutes right become this parents and so whatever parents end is there, right? So that becomes this absolutes end as well. So if I remove this parent from having a relative positioning, okay, so you can see that it by default takes the browser's body as its parent. Either this absolute takes the parent which has relative positioning, or if none of its parent have relative positioning, it takes the whole this browser body as its parent. Okay. Let me make it back to relative so that this border of this parent div becomes its border as well. Okay. So if I make it left as 0, see, uh, so it is still considering this parent's border here, right? So not just left and right, it has top and bottom as well. So I think they have already applied top. So if I say top as 10 pixels, so from top it is 10 pixels, bottom as 10 pixels. So from bottom it should be 10 pixels up. So that is how absolute works. Nice, right? So this is about absolute. There is one more thing called as uh, fixed. Okay. Uh, so let's try to understand, this fixed positioning. Okay. So now, fixed, right? If you want, okay. Let's for until we find a use case to understand fixed positioning better. Let's keep it on hold till we get a good requirement for using fixed. Okay, so that point of time I'll explain you about fixed. You know, fixed positioning. Okay. So there is one more thing called as Z index. Okay, let's try to understand that Z index. So let's set this as well. Okay, so let me go this part. Okay, so you see, I have a H1 tag, I have an image tag, I have a P tag. Okay, now let me just comment this totally remove this style. You see, so there is a heading tag, and below this there is a image tag, and then below this there is p tag. So I want this uh, tree, right? Tree image to go beyond this heading tag. Okay. So let's consider there are layers. Okay, so there are layers of bodies here. So I want this tree tag to go beyond that layer. So I want this not heading to come in front, and then I want this uh, tree to go. Okay, so to explain you that. Okay, so they have made this image as for absolute positioning. So now it takes the body of the browser as its parent. Now you can see that this dot heading is being hidden, and even that p tag that is being hidden, right? So I want this tree to go behind so that we can see the text, right? So that's when we can make use of z index. I can make it. Usually, z index of each element is going to be 0. Okay, and based on the latest this or latest element, or whichever has position absolute is going to have the highest priority, and then that is what is going to come in front of us, right? So I want that to go back. So lesser than 0 is -1, right? So I'll give z index as -1. Let me refresh it. Yeah. So now we can see that this tree has gone behind the text. Okay, so text has come from. Okay, so either we can apply it to this image tag, or if we want to apply to h1 and p text, we can do that as well. So I can just say h1 should have, so we can apply position only when we can apply z index only when the position of that element is uh, anything else rather than static. Okay, so if I want to make it come front, so I have to make this z index as 1. So now you can see that heading has come front. I want to do the same for p tag as well. So I can just say comma p. So I want this properties to be applied for heading 1 and then p. Now p has also come front. Okay. Now we understood a lot of things in CSS again here. Okay. It's time to understand few more things. Now you have already seen about, okay, so let me this. So let me just keep a div tag here. Okay. So I have a div tag. Okay, I have a border to it, which is of 3 pixels solid, and it has this green color, right? So this is a border. We know about borders. So there are few more things like borders. So there is this text, right? Content. Uh, so like whatever comes before border is called as padding. So whatever this inside part, this is called padding. So after border, whatever comes after border, so outside of the border is called as margin. All right. So if I give padding as 1 pixel, okay. So this padding is from left padding, top padding, right padding, bottom padding. It pushes the content from left, right, top, and bottom. Okay. So let's see. So 10 pixel, we can see that element was moved a little bit. Okay, I made it 1 pixel. Yeah, so you can see that now our div takes uh, this 10 pixel space from top, 10 pixel space from left, 10 pixels space from right, and 10 pixel space from border. It reserves it for padding, so we cannot use that space. Okay, that is why we can see that text is moved a little bit below, right? Now let's see margin. Margin as 10 pixels, right? So whatever is outside the border, that is called as margin. So from top 10 pixel it moves below, and then from left, and then from right, and then from bottom. So let me save it. And let me you can see that. So from top 10 pixels it comes below, from left 10 pixels, from right it is not going to affect because right is too far. Even bottom is same, like it has reserved in 10 pixels still here, but you cannot see it because it is too far from the element, right? So that is the margin. So now this is browser console. Okay, so to open browser console, we right click on the browser tab and then we click on this inspect. Okay, so this is one way. Another way is there is a keyboard shortcut that is Control Shift and I, right? So this also opens our this inspect mode of the browser. Okay, so here we make use of this something called as pointer. Okay, so here we click on this part. So we want to inspect this div element, right? So we click on this. Okay, here we can see that all the CSS that is applied to that div dot relative, right? So here we can see that position of that is relative, width is 400 pixels, border is this, padding is this, margin is this, right? So we can see that in a diagrammatic way as well. Okay, so this is our content. Okay, padding I applied as 10 pixels everywhere, top 10, left 10, right 10. Okay, bottom 10. Border is of 3 pixels from top, left, right, and bottom. Okay, so same for margin, right? Margin 10, 10 from top, 10 from right, 10 from bottom, 10 from left. So if we apply position, so let's say position is relative, right? So if I make uh, left as 10 pixels, let's see what happens. You see, position is applied from left as 10 pixels and right as minus 10, right? So when mode when the position when the element moves from left towards right, so it gains 10 pixels here and minus 10 from here, right? So so this becomes very useful when we are making some development, right? So let's say we want this element to be moved by 10 pixels down, right? So like if you want to calculate this element's whole width, okay, so we have to do if you want to calculate the width, uh, what we have to do is the left positioning plus uh, left positioning here, okay, or left margin plus left position plus right margin, okay, and then left border, right border, left padding, right padding. If we add all of these, we'll get the overall width of that element. Okay, same way we want to calculate the height. It is going to be top margin, top border, bottom border, top padding, bottom padding. So if we add all of this, we're going to get the overall height of that element. So this whole design here, right? So we call this whole design margin, border, padding, content. So this is called as a box model. So we call it as a box model, right? So this is very helpful, and this inspect uh, tool here, this browser tool, this is a browser tool. It helps us in understanding the height and overall height and width of our element in a better way here. Right? So we just have to add 10 plus 10 is 20, 3 plus 3 is 6, and here 10 plus 10 is 20, 20, 20, 46, 46 is the overall width of this element, right? So yeah, this is about box model, right? So this is all about CSS. and HTML. So this completes our fundamentals of front-end development part 1, correct? So what all we understood, like what all we learned in these sessions. So let's try to briefly rewind that. So we looked at HTML and then structure of HTML, right? We looked at header, heading tags, links, links to a extra anchor tag. We looked at image tag, div, span, table, list, list tag, UL, OL, li, right? We also looked at formatting tags like E, I, U, right? Also, we looked at HTML attributes like ID, class, right? And then what else we saw in HTML? This is it. This is it, I guess. And in CSS, we looked at syntax, how to write CSS, and the ways of applying CSS. That is inline, document level, external. Inline is making use of style attribute. This is making use of style tag. External is writing CSS in whole another file and then importing it using link tag, right? And what else? We looked at colors and different ways to apply colors. One is directly providing the names of colors and then hex code, RGB, etc. Right? And then we looked at background, applying background colors, background color, and then background property, applying URL and all, and then background repeat to make sure that when we apply a background image, it is not repeated, right? And then what else? What else? Background does done, and then yeah, display property. So this is either inline or block, right? So if it is block, that element takes full 100% of the parent's width. If it is inline, it only takes the width that is required to show content. Okay, and what else? Positions. So we looked at relative, absolute. We'll come to fixed. Okay, we'll try to understand fixed in coming sessions. And also we saw static. Static is the default position that is applied to all the elements by default. It doesn't have any like positions like top, left, right, bottom. It doesn't have it. Static is by default applied to all the elements. And we saw Z index. To apply Z index, the position of the element is supposed to be anything other than static, right? So this Z index makes sure that if content is overlapping, it's make sure what content should be on the top, what should be beyond. So it helps with that. Okay. So yeah, think this should be enough for today. We'll in the next part, that is fundamentals of front-end development part 2, we are going to see that part is only dedicated to JavaScript. But there are two ways of using JavaScript. JavaScript for programming, JavaScript for web development. We'll see both of them. Okay. If required, we'll have part 3 as well. That is to completely dedicated for JavaScript. Okay. JavaScript is huge. So yeah, we'll see about it in upcoming classes then. Yeah, I hope you enjoyed this class. If you love or if you like this, like my session, please like it, share it, subscribe it. That will help me a lot, right? Yeah. Thank you, everyone. See you in next session. Bye bye. Take care.